Right, this week I have been reminded to do something about the Council of 1872 in Constantinople, which was about ethno-phyletism. What does this mean? Well, what was happening is the Bulgarians were creating a church in Constantinople for Bulgarians. And they were doing it as not respecting the Patriarch of Constantinople as a bishop of Constantinople. They were setting up their own church with their own ethnic grouping without recognizing the local bishop. And the council came and condemned such a practice. It condemns us creating in the same territory churches based on ethnic identity, so that you are Bulgarians rather than Greeks or Romans or whatever. So when I come to this place, I must have my Russian church or my Serbian church or Romanian church in the same place where there's already an Orthodox bishop there, and it's condemning that. Because in the church, there is neither Greek nor Scythian nor Jew in the church. We're not in the church divided by nation, where all nations come together in Christ. So in each place, there should be one bishop, and that bishop, and even in each parish, there is one priest, and everybody in that parish goes to their local church, and all nations are gathered together in one place, as we're all gathered in Christ there. So we should not be dividing ourselves up by nations, and particularly and according to diocesan level. So when there's one bishop there, all nations should be gathered unto that one same bishop. And that is the mystery of the church. We're all coming together in Christ. For the church is properly founded by territory. So each bishop has a city and its hinterland around it as his territory. And he is only bishop as far as that territory is concerned. If he goes outside the territory, he has no right to act as a bishop unless he is given permission by the bishop of that other territory. And territory is important as the definition of the church, because anything else is dividing it by some sort of human category. We don't divide the church up by ethnicity, race, age, job, profession. These are all different human categories. All humans come together in Christ, in one body. So all people in the same place come into one place as one body. It doesn't matter if you're old, you're young, you're black, you're white, you're pink, you're purple, whatever. You all come together as one people. So this is an important part of the church. On this, while I'm thinking about it, we've got to be very careful in the church not to get caught up by having youth services or old people services or disabled services. No, we don't have separate youth services. When we do the liturgy, the entire church, the Catholic Church, the whole church is present. And so all people should be present at the same liturgy. We do not exclude anybody. We do not make liturgies that are exclusive for one group of people or another. That is for all people are open, because the community, the liturgy is the offering of the whole church. All the members of the church should be there and offer with it. So we must be very careful not to fall into this thing, we'll have a youth church or an old people's. This is not right. This is not the Orthodox way. We all come together in one. And so, and the same in territory. And the patriarchs have a certain territory of which are in charge. So we've got metropolitans have a region, and then the patriarchs above that have a region as well. So for Rome was all the western part of the empire. That Alexandria looked after Egypt and a few provinces around the eastern side of North Africa. Is strict territorial jurisdiction. The western side of North Africa was under Carthage. there was a separate exarchate under Carthage, and they respected Rome as patriarch. It's only since the schism that Alexandria sort of extended itself across wider northern Africa and the rest of Africa. And Antioch is in the east. Jerusalem is only in Jerusalem and the Palestines, and I think that goes into Jordan now. That's its territory. Constantinople is Asia, Thracia, and Pontus, basically modern Turkey, and going up into a little bit of Bulgaria was its traditional territories. And so we stick to the territories, except there is an exception, is when you do mission. So mission going beyond your territory, contiguous to territory, and that was beside the territory, not just teleporting to somewhere across the other side of the world and doing mission, but mission that's next to. Then the patriarchates order that mission. So all the missions into Africa should be properly under the patriarch of Alexandria, conducts those missions, and then they becomes his territory. His missions move in that direction. Rome does the west, so when Britain gets missionized or was going, they come under the patriarch of Rome, and in the Balkans, etc. Constantinople conducts some missions next to its territory, so they come under Constantinople. As it spread out into Russia, they're under the jurisdiction of Constantinople. Where there's some dispute between Rome and Constantinople, as in the Balkans, in Bulgaria, then the people can choose, I want to be under this patriarch or that patriarch. And so the line, sort of east-west line, is sort of jagged, as some decide that they prefer to be under Constantinople, and the Poles want to be under Rome. That's fine. And there's no absolute line. The line can be sort of a little vague, and occasionally, due to a schism, partly maybe before, I think maybe even before in the 9th century, Greece, for example, was under the Patriarch of Rome. Thessaloniki was under the Patriarch of Rome. It wasn't under the Eastern Patriarchate. It's not in the territory of Constantinople. But due to the schism, or a bit before the imperial change, they sort of came into the wider orbit of Constantinople, got shifted across. But strictly, originally, they were under Rome as a patriarchate. The church is divided by territory. Now you've got modern patriarchates of Romania, Serbia, which were under Constantinople, but have broken off, sadly, more often than not since the 19th century, for ethno-phylitist reasons. They don't. Unfortunately, the ecumenical patriarchate has got a little bit caught up with Hellenism. This is what they publicly say we talk about, which is an ethnic type of attitude, and the Romanian Serbians revolted against that and wanted their own patriarchates, which in some level is not so bad. They used to have them in the 9th century, a Bulgarian patriarchate, then it disappears again as politics change, and then it comes back. But these patriarchates are built on a territory, a Bulgarian territory, a Romanian territory, and Serbian territory. And their limit of their jurisdiction is to their territory. They are there to manage the church affairs in the territory of the Romanian people there, or the Bulgarians. But it's fixed by physical land boundaries. That's their jurisdiction. Anything beyond that still belongs to the job of the ecumenical patriarchate to be ministering to those needs. Or if there's another patriarch, like Russia eventually got its independence on the ecumenical patriarch, and it becomes the patriarch of the north. So all the northern lands contiguous with Russia can become under the Russian missionary, which is all of Siberia, maybe to Japan, Korea, and even into Alaska, North America. This is all contiguous to the Russian patriarchate, and that's fine. When you start pushing south into China, you start going to the Eastern Territory, which is disputable with Antioch, because Antioch's the patriarch of the East. So its territory goes there. And people can choose back and forth. Where the actual line gets drawn can be a matter of history and who sends missionaries where. But it's not right that the Russians will have jurisdictional parishes in Africa, for example. There is no contiguous border with the Northern Patriarchate with Africa. There's no point in Russians even really being in India and stuff like that, because that's not northern territory, that's definitely eastern territory. In ancient history, we can see that's under the Patriarch of Antioch, because the Indian church recognized the Syriac Patriarch of Antioch as their patriarch until the sort of splits in reasonably modern times. They were under Antioch, and so that is that territory of the east. Georgia, Church of Georgia, for example, when they came Orthodox, went to Antioch for missionaries to come to them. And then the Antiochian Patriarch looked after Church of Georgia and founded it, and then gave it an independence later on to itself. But it's territorial. And fortunately, in modern times, though it's the Council of AD1872 was specifically about Constantinople and the Bulgarians moving in and setting up churches there, we do have an increasing problem of this in modern times. And you will find Russians will have their churches in Turkey, which is Constantinople's territory. And now they won't be asking for a Constantinople bishop to look after it. They'll just set up churches there, or in Pakistan and things. This is starting to get, well, what are you doing here? And more troubling is like Romanians in the UK, and what, they have no right to be there. And the Romanians are now starting to teach that they look after Romanians anywhere and everywhere. This is ethno-phyletism, where their patriarch is no longer bound to a territory, but saying they have right over people because of their ethnic heritage, because they speak Romanian, they're born in Romania, they're born to Romanian parents or born to Romanian grandparents, therefore we have a right of jurisdiction to look after them. This is not right. This is ethno-phyletism, and there's a huge plague in the Orthodox Church at the moment, such that big problem of it in the places like the UK and the US, each of them comes to look after their own ethnic people. Each of them is dedicated to their national group, which means in the place of UK there is no Orthodox Church here, and there is no space, and none of them are trying to develop and found a local Orthodox Church that is run by the local people, that has its local customs, etc. They all want to bring their own ethnic customs across, which means you confuse tradition with ethnic customs. So each place the church comes incarnate, it carries the tradition of the apostles, but it takes on local customs, local ways, which is perfectly fine. And you can't actually have the church without some of these localized customs. That's fine. But when you move to another place, you've got to distinguish between the apostolic tradition and your local customs. And at a certain level, when a patriarch goes to a new place, like in Russia, missionizes into Constantinople, missionizes into Russia, the Russians pick up the Constantinople ways of doing things and the customs. The Constantinople ways of doing it is a custom. It's not an absolute apostolic tradition. You could do the way Romans, for example, but they follow But eventually the Russians start taking this customs and develop their own local customs and local ways, which is fine. But you usually inherit it from somewhere. The trouble is, in somewhere like the UK, we were originally under the Roman Patriarchate. We have the local customs from Rome. We just fell off through the heresy, etc., away from the church. But we already have inherited customs. So ideally, I would argue that when the bishops came here from Antioch, Antioch shouldn't be here, by the way, because they are the Patriarch of the East. This is the West. So an ecumenical patriarch comes here, should revive the local customs of Roman customs here and let the churches grow again as under them. But because they don't understand these customs, it's natural that they want to come and bring their own Constantinople customs. Yeah, so be it, I can understand that is a way there. But at some stage, they should be allowing a local synod of local bishops in 200 or 300 years to develop their own customs and ways, not be bound to do everything a Greek way or a Constantine way, because this is not Constantinople territory. It's just a surrogate for Rome. This is technically Roman territory in the tradition. The territories don't change in the traditions of the church properly. They should be stable. unless beyond, again, economy, sometimes they have to change. But generally, the territory should be stable. So anyway, what happens if the Romanians come here and the Bulgarians, they bring their own ethnic way, and they define the church according to their ethnic local customs. Therefore, there's no true grounding of a local church with its own customs, because your church is defined by local customs of somewhere else. And you start doing other things other than this, oh, people complain this is no longer our church. No, this is not the way it should be. We're not here to impose local customs. We're not here to make everyone turn into Russians or Romanians or Greeks, etc. We're here to allow the British people to become Orthodox. But unfortunately, most of them come across to look after diaspora, that we can only convert to Orthodox churches if you become Greek, Romanian, Russian, Arabic, or something, which is not helpful. And I think very few are going to be putting in local bishops to form a local synod, and then everybody leaves, because this is, like, you don't see Romanians go to Greece and put their Romanian churches in Greece. If you go to Greece, you go to the Greek churches. If you go to Cyprus, you should go to the Cypriot churches. But I do see Russian immigrants wanting Russian-style churches built, and some of the bishops allow it, but they don't allow other bishops to come across and to control it. It's the local bishop is in charge, and he allow a Russian-style church built or not. He can allow a Russian-style service or not. It's up to him. But the people should just be going to the local services. But we're getting a lot of people attached to their local customs. I like the Russian style, I like the Romanian style. The only caveat on this is for language. So historically, it's clear that sometimes people from a different language group go somewhere to a different city, that the bishop will provide a parish that will serve in that language. Because as Paul says, it's better to understand in your own language than to a language you don't understand. But that should be rare. That should be for initial immigrants coming in who don't speak the language of the local language properly. But eventually those should die out as people, once you get 2 or 3 generations later, everyone will speak the local language. They might as well go to parishes which speak the local language. There's no need to preserve Romanian language in the UK. This is not Romania. Or Serbian or Slavonic, or this is not. This is English as a language. If you want to keep a particular language for ancient perspectives, you could possibly do Greek, because it's an ancient language, just like Latin used to be a very long held. So that there's a continuing use of ancient Greek in the services. There's some of the justification for that, to remember the heritage of the church through the Greek language. But otherwise, everything should be in English in this country. And the customs should become a certain English-style customs. Otherwise, you go back to ethno-phyletism. You're basically bringing the church across, wrapped in its ethnic culture and things and character, and that is imposing an ethnic way of doing things on the people. So it's saying it'd be like the Romanians or Russians going to Greece and demanding everything be done Russian style in Greece. And the immigrants, no, you must do it Russian. I want my own Russian style. Well, we are one church. We're one style. No, you go to Greece, you do it the Greek style. Otherwise, you are putting local customs to a level of dogma, of apostolic tradition. And finally, of course, a lot of local customs are not always that good. There's a lot of mistakes in local customs. They're not absolute, but the way the Russians do singing is not according to the tradition of the church. It's not canonical. And they should abandon it. I'm not going to judge what the economy is going on in Russia, but it shouldn't be exporting it to other places, an uncanonical way of doing it. They should go back to the canonical form of playing chant, etc., monophonic chant. They've received what they always practiced until fairly recently. That's what they should be doing when they move outside their borders, so that the tradition is kept pure and they're not imposing their economy custom on other places. Unfortunately, it's too late. They've come across, they do it that way, and then things I like that style, I like this style. And then the church becomes a matter of style, taste. Instead of going to your local parish, because it's the one that's closest to you, I like the Russians, I want to go to a Russian style singing. I like the Greek style, I like the Romanian style. Your attachment to a church becomes ethnic. It becomes based on the superficial customs, not on the apostolic tradition. And it's hard to get a local church like that. there. So this is causing great problems for us now, and it's turning a lot of people away from the Orthodox Church, because they say, oh, it's just for the Greeks, it's just for Romanians, it's just for the Russians, it's not for us, it's not an English. And there's a fair comment about that, and it's a scandal and driving people away. So in each place on the council, one is a territory, should be one bishop, and all people in that place should be going to the local churches. Each person should go to your local parish church, the closest parish church to you, ideally. You shouldn't be wandering around going to one where you find aesthetically more pleasing or things like this. Is not a good thing. We're all one people, one church. Each place is one Holy Catholic Apostolic. All people are gathered together. When you come to this parish, you are gathering with the entire church worldwide in our liturgy. All the churches together. We have a whole Catholic. That's why the Catholic Church is present in each liturgy. And so you shouldn't be going elsewhere. Now, having said that, there's times where if your language, you've got 2 or 3 churches nearby, and one's slightly further away, but it's in your own language, okay, you go to there. There might be other reasons of occasionally struggle with personality clashes or something or other, and for the peace of your soul and the best for your salvation, it might be better to go one place or another. But this is by need and an economy. But otherwise, you should go to your local territorial place, because we're all together in one body. And if you've got a problem with someone in another church, you need to repent from this a little bit, because if they're in the church and they're going to there, when it comes to age to come, you are going to be with that person eternally. Doesn't matter on earth now that you're not. When it comes to heaven, you need to be there. So if you haven't got the heart to love the person, to be with them, to be united to them, regardless of faith, height, colour, whatever, or even if they're still stuck in some sins and stuff, then you're in a danger of separating yourself from the church, because you're starting to say, oh, I want to go to the pure place, the best place. I want to be in the perfect place. So you've got to be very, very careful of this, that you should really stick to your local church. And this is very good reason not to go. Occasionally, as I said, sometimes certain people wind you up so much that you're so agitated, you're so angry, you're so frustrated being around them, that it's better by economy just to sit somewhere else so you don't get yourself wound up and angry and grumpy with the people around it. That's okay. There's a sort of economy in that. But otherwise, yeah, you should go to your local church. Unless the priest is a raving heretic or something like that, or the actual formal way of a church is so disorganized according to tradition, that it's just so dysfunctional that we don't want to condemn it, but you want to go to a church which is keeping the tradition more carefully, and that's another reason to step aside. So we should avoid that because of personality problems. But if it's not teaching orthodoxy well, or so dysfunctional in its practice that you're scandalized constantly in your heart, go somewhere where you're not feeling so scandalized. There's legitimacy to that. But we shouldn't be going somewhere because I like Russian music, or like Greek chant, or like this. This is a superficial stuff, and it's not good. We're not becoming the mentality of one church. But unfortunately, we have got all these bishops all doing their own different little customs over here, and praise to God, I hope one day that this matter will be sorted out. We have a local British synod of the Orthodox Church, or the Catholic Church here, as it's where it probably are. So with ecumenism, and ecumenism goes for ethno-phyletism, because you see that the church becomes your church of your nation. This is your national religion. So that someone else has their national religion and their national religion. The Greeks come over, some of them, oh, this is our national religion. I'm going to follow that. You're English. You have your national religion over there. If you want to come into ours, it's a bit strange. Or if you're married into us and want to become our national person, have Slovakia with us and sing Greek songs, well, okay, we'll welcome you into our Greek brotherhood. But no, you're not going to come and tell us that we're going to have a localized everything in English and things like that eventually. No, because it's a subset of their culture. This is very wrong. When you've got this, church is above culture. All cultures come together into the church. But unfortunately, it's very human to think about things in cultural level. It's very hard when certain churches start imposing themselves and others react by running off into other things. So one of the problems in the US, probably a bit more than the UK, is you might get the Greeks doing the Greeks, the Serbians, then the English people want to do the English thing. But they do it again in the same problem. They do ethno-phyletism, and then we have English parish, and that go away Greeks, go away this, and this again is just compounding the problem. So there's no excuse. Though we need a local parish, there's no excuse to be doing one that's designed by ethnic grounds. In the UK, again, it's local. We have local customs based on territory by the bishops of the territory, the local bishops of the territory, to have been deciding those customs, or we inherit the customs from the bishops in the past. But we mustn't be taking church as I want an English church as an ethnic thing, or an Irish church for an ethnic thing. No, this is a mistake. Each church and each place should be open to all people from all cultures, all things. We have to have one language properly, and it should be the dominant language of the land. Or if you want to do it in old ways, use something like Latin or Greek, or something like some historical liturgical language that, and even more, or Slavonic in case. But Slavonic has no place in the UK because it is the common language in the east of Russia and Bulgaria. But somewhere like in the UK is not part of the east, it's not part of the Slavonic world. And if you're going to bring in a more ancient language, you can just use Greek in all parishes. If we were to go that way, it should just be Greek. It shouldn't be Arabic either. Arabic belongs to the east. But Greek is something more universal because it's a foundational language, so it has a place here. Though Latin was the ancient language here, we should probably be doing things in Latin if we wanted a language other than English. I think most people would prefer it in English now. And again, someone like myself would prefer to liturgical English rather than a modern type of language. So we're using the language that has church heritage as well. All right, I think that's enough. So yeah, 1872 was basically objecting to Bulgarians turning up and having their Bulgarian parish in the middle of Constantinople under their own bishop. And they said, no, you can't do that. You can't sort of divide things. Doesn't mean that the local bishop can't have a Romanian-speaking parish with a Romanian priest and let them have their little customs if they wish. There's some freedom of that. And it could be a pastoral need to do that. And in Constantinople, there were Latin churches for a while from Anglo-Saxons moved across, and but eventually they should die out. Because otherwise you've sort of got two different groups, and you're not really one church, one people there. But for a temporary measure, that's okay. But eventually, long term, one local church, one synod of bishops, one bishop in each place, each parish in each place, and we should all go to a local parish and worship together as one body in Christ. Right, here we go. Any questions before I finish?
Maybe, Father, about the mission. I think you said very well what the Russians are doing in Africa and Madagascar, because it's exactly not how it should be. We know from the past. Saint Herman of Alaska, he came to Alaska, he lived with the local people, he learned the language, he translated the gospel, and then he basically converted them and he became the same. So, or the Saint Nikolai in Japan. So this is how it should happen. But as you mentioned, US, I know when the immigrants from Slovakia or Czechoslovakia came there from the end of 19th, beginning of 20th century, there was nobody to give them that liturgy in their own language, if it makes sense. So there was an ecumenical patriarchate, I assume, look after US, yeah, but they were just so that's why they established that parishes. So it's like here in the UK. I think if there was like a proper bishop here who would be looking on the first millennia, he would be studying the Latin liturgies, Orthodox liturgies, and he would take from there. But no, it's not happening at all. They are just building whatever they have, as you said, that custom they established. And so it's just not like.
Yeah, it's issues of there. People wanting, demanding these things, but we need to. What's happened is that each of our patriarchates has a certain independence to them, but should be a certain respect of each one. So when it comes to places like the US is a bit difficult, but the Western Europe, for example, it fell into heresy. So who's got jurisdiction? None of them have got jurisdiction over the West. There's a patriarch. So what you should do is look at, well, who's the most senior patriarch, which is Constantinople. It should surrogate for that. So it should come over and manage all the churches here. If people from Slovakia come here, then either they should learn English, and that should be the local language here, and they should go along to that. But if for economy, for some of the new immigrants, when they're struggling, the bishops of the Patriarch of Constantinople, who should be a number of them across here, the local bishop should go, okay, I'll bring a priest over Slovakia to do a service for you, but you're under me as a bishop, and this parish will just last a little while like this. He keeps developing the local parishes, and eventually the parish will disappear. The people will finish, run its purpose, and it'll just eventually wind down. But it's not going to stop there being local parishes in the area, the diocese. Whereas here we've got Greeks that are all dying out, and then suddenly the church has not been used, the bishops are sort of running out of reason to be, sort of thing, because they haven't properly sort of started localizing overall. So this is a problem. US is difficult. Where you got Japan and US, this is contiguous to Russians moving across. So northern Alaska is like still in the north of, and the Pacific North. Japan could be sort of contiguous to the north. But when you start pushing further south, then it has to be, well, Antioch is the east. So where do you draw the line? And there's no fixed thing. It should be some sort of vague, but they should be talking to each other. And once you start getting to Southeast Europe, it's not really Russian, Southeast Asia. It's no longer the North, Patriarch of the North. You should be handing it over to Antioch and say, Antioch, could you send some priests to do it? And if Antioch says, look, we can't manage it at the moment, can you continue? Okay. But they're respecting this is Antiochian territory, and if Antioch eventually will take it back over again. Then the US, it's where is it? Is Eastern, Western? It's hard to know. So Russia got it first. You get OCA, Orthodox Church of America, up in Canada and the north, which comes from the Russians. So that has legitimacy that's coming out of there. The ecumenical patriarch, well, no, we wanted to come in here, and the Greeks don't want to be under the Russians, so they bring them, and that causes a bit of a problem because there's a tension here. And then everyone else piles on in as well, which is not good. I think the states south of Canada, etc., better under ecumenical patriarch has sort of been the Western territory, which was old Roman territory, and they continued the missions right down to South America under ecumenical patriarchate. I think the ecumenical patriarch is correct, that it fits up the barbarian lands. However, that's got to be restricted. It doesn't go into Africa, for example. You don't see ecumenical patriarchate in Africa. It recognises all of Africa under the Alexandria. And it should, in the east, and when it comes to India and stuff, you got ecumenical patriarch there. But it really should be expecting Antioch in that. The trouble is, of course, there's a little bit of ethno-phyletism going on here of Alexandrian and ecumenical patriarchate. So when it comes to the Cyprus, Church of Cyprus in Greece, they respect it. Outside their territory, but they don't have any parishes. They go under ecumenical patriarchate. Cypriot, if in England, he's under ecumenical patriarchate. If in New Zealand, under ecumenical patriarchate. They don't go a Cypriot bishop outside Cyprus. You don't get a Greek bishop outside Greece. They will go under ecumenical patriarch. But that works because they're all Greek. And so it's a sort of two. And so the ecumenical patriarch doesn't need to be in Africa because the bishop is Greek. But in Antioch, well, he's Arab. No, we'll do our Greek mission over there because he's Arab now. This is not right. This is not good. So I think there's much more needs to be done to balance these things out. I know the Antiochians really had a grumpy at Jerusalem for being in Qatar or something. This is Antiochian territory. Get out! What are you doing here? And Jerusalem has been pretty good, normally just shrinking itself back into its true canonical and limit, which is Palestine's and Jerusalem, because all the territory around it is under Antioch. And, as a matter of fact, Jerusalem is strictly under Antioch, but it's because it was the holy city, etc. It has a special patriarchate inside the territory of Antioch. But there is no contiguous mission for Jerusalem outside to another patriarchate. It's locked in itself. Same with Bulgaria. You go north, you run into the Romanians. Go south, you're into ecumenical patriarch. You go west, you run into Serbia or something. That's it. They're fixed. There's no mission come out of that. Same with Serbia, etc. Maybe you push into Hungary a little bit. But that's Western patriarchal territory as well, which is clearly Roman territory. So therefore, that's ecumenical patriarch should surrogate for Rome, because New Rome, to look after the territories there. So Bulgaria, Romania and Serbia, for example, even though our patriarchs have no empty territory out next to them, contiguous to their borders, so they shouldn't have any missions outside anywhere else in the world. They're locked. Russia, because it's in the north, yeah, it had reason to keep spreading eastwards as it didn't. That's perfectly fine. Nicholas and Jeb, that's perfectly fine. You can have arguments of Constantinople, where you draw the line of Constantinople in the USA and stuff, or of Antioch in China, etc. Yeah, that's fine. They can have arguments and they can discuss them among themselves, and the people might choose where they want. But Russia should not be in Africa. There is absolutely no reason for it to be there at all. Even if they think that Alexandria has gone into heresy or schism, then that's Constantinople's problem to fix, or the Antiochian problem to fix. It's not their problem to fix. And this is quite right, but wrong. But yeah, unfortunately, Russian churches are getting a bit dangerously close to being a state church and pushing for state things. Not so much ethnic. The Russians are more of an imperial church in the sense they've got many ethnicities, but it's a little bit more state-wise. All the Russian state is interested in influence. It will drag the church along, just like the English Empire dragged the Anglican church everywhere. It was all tied up with British colonies and things like that. So it's a bit the same with Russians. Romanians are much more ethno-phylitist in their way. They go because it's where Romanians are, and you're a Romanian, therefore the Romanians look after you and stuff. This is ethno-phylitism, unfortunately. But we always hope that despite that, God's grace is still with them, and there is a couple of centuries of them to sort it all out before grace is taken away for this type of thing. So anyway, here we go. I hope that answered the question a little bit.
Thank you very much.